Hello punters and welcome back to another Saturday racing preview. Of course, this video looking at the Derby tomorrow, Derby day at Flemington. Obviously one of the great days of punting. I mean, we absolutely love it, not just punting but also racing, of course, as well. Really is not too much better days on the racing calendar, if I'm completely honest. Obviously for the four Group 1s tomorrow with the Empire Rose, the Cantala, and then the two real massive ones in the Coolmore Stud Stakes up the straight at Flemington, and then also the, of course, VRC Amy Victoria Derby. So really looking forward to getting stuck into those ones. We've got a 9-race program tomorrow, and look, to be honest, every race in the program looks terrific at Flemington. Obviously, really looking forward to getting stuck into that. And then also in my other video, I'll be looking at the Golden Eagle and Yes 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 Stakes for that whole meeting at Rose Hill up there in Sydney. So a couple of really nice races to tuck into for that program there, and we can look forward to getting into those ones as well. So if you are new here, obviously subscribe. I really would appreciate that support. If you don't want to miss any of the videos, please click the notification bell and you'll get a notification as soon as I upload these videos. But otherwise, you should be able to bank on checking in on Friday nights around so that, well, 7, 8 o'clock mark, and I should always have my video uploaded before then, fingers crossed, unless I have a delay of any sort, but or any issues. But more often than not, it will be up by then. So hopefully that will be the case going forward. So anyway, we're going to get straight into the first race in the program. If you are new as well, like I said, this is I guess a video where I go through the whole program, look at each race, break it down, really look at the key chances, give a top 4 selection, and then anything that I think are key bets in the race that I will be taking from my perspective, and then obviously making a bit of a case for anything that you might be keen on as well. And I will be doing Quaddie Selections, best bets, and best value bets at the end of the video, so you can check those out. If you want to just go straight to those, feel free. I won't pass any judgment at all. But if you want to get a bit of an insight into all the races tomorrow and get my thoughts, then proceed to keep watching. So first race on the program tomorrow has a 8-horse field, got the Carbine Club Stakes over 1,600 metres. Look at the speed map for this. Suggests that the Horrifying and Crosshaven will probably be the likely leaders, and On Danger probably won't be too far away from the speed either. Look, I think by the way, just for the record, it is a good forward track tomorrow. There's scheduled to be a shower towards the city sort of tonight, but it's not going to be enough to bring it to a soft range. So I can be 100% confident they'll be working with a good forward track tomorrow, which is of great relief. So I thought I'd just quickly throw that one in there for anyone who wasn't aware already. Now, look, I'm keen to go with Crosshaven here. I think this horse it just seems to be a better bet at the price than what ASAR is at the $2. I do concede ASAR was obviously terrific in the Caulfield Guineas last time out, just narrowly beaten by Ole Kirk, but Crosshaven did finish 4th that race and really battled on nice on the speed. There was actually quite a lot of pace in the race, and really did set up for the back markers. Now, he was one of the only ones who stayed sort of, well, he was the only one who really sort of kept going and gave them something to run down. And I thought he boxed on really nicely considering the tempo that they went at. My only little query with him is that he seems to be performing his best on rain-affected surfaces. He's had 3 starts and 3 wins on soft tracks, and tomorrow he will not get that. He has won on a good track before, but he did so here at Flemington over 1,400 metres. But I just think that with me, he just seems to be a better price than the 460. I'd much rather go with him than ASAR, who I do concede will also be hard to beat. Looks to be making some really nice progression. Really liked how he finished off last day. He loomed up to be the winner of the Caulfield Guineas last start, and he just obviously was narrowly beaten by a very, very good horse in Ole Kirk. So, there was no shame in him going down to a horse like that, but it was a terrific performance, and you'll get his chance to win tomorrow. I just think that $2 is a bit short for me. And Danger was really good winning last time out. I was very impressed with that performance. I was quite keen on it myself, for anyone who would have followed in on Guineas Day. On Cup Day. And obviously comes into this. He's still lightly racing. He had the 3 starts, and he's had that little bit more of a freshen up. I suppose he's had 2 weeks, but before that he had sort of 3 weeks off. So he's been spacing his runs out a little bit, and prior to that he obviously had a bit of a spell. So this is his 3rd run, this preparation. So he has the fitness. My only little query is that his 2 wins have come on a soft track, so maybe that might be his better surface, but he is still a young horse and he's got plenty more to do, and he has a lot of upside. Number 4, Embolism. I was really impressive winning last start at Caulfield over the mile. Beat Miss In Between with quite a lot of ease. Now, I don't think that was the strongest race. That, of course, was on Blue Sapphire Day, but I was impressed the way he finished off there, and I suggest that he's got A bit more upside as well, very similar to On Danger. But look, I'm keen to go across Haven. I think it's a very good bet to open the program. Head of number 3, ASAR for second, and then in for third, I've got number 2, In Danger. Then in for fourth, number 4, Embolism. Now, look, you may notice that I'm pausing the video a little bit. You'll see a few little cuts and whatnot. That's because the Valley races have just started, so I'm filming during that, and I have got a couple of investments there, so I'm keeping an eye on that. So apologies if this is cutting out here and there, but hopefully you guys understand very well. Moving on to race number 2 tomorrow, we've got the 2,000 metre Wakeful Stakes. Looking at the field here, got 14 currently lined up. Not sure if that might be shortened down by tomorrow potentially, but Mrs. Murphy and Tyche Goddess Pensado might roll towards the pace. But I think that Tyche Goddess, Mrs. Murphy will lead them up. Miravail, tricky barrier for it, as well as Salter Angel. They usually like to roll forward. I think they might be able to do that from there actually, because they've got a bit of speed on the inside of them. They should be able to track into a fair spot. And then Proud Mary's probably the other one that might roll up towards the pace. And Blazing Lace doesn't mind sitting towards the speed either. So I think it's just going to be a genuine run, 2,000 metres. I can see a little bit of pace in it, so should give every horse their own chance. I think Personal's going to be really hard to beat in this race here. Obviously, look, she's knocking on the door for a victory, and she looks to 2,000 metres looks to be perfect for her. I believe the way she's been finishing off her last 2 starts, she hits the line well. She did go out over 2,000 metres last preparation, if I'm not mistaken. Where are we? Yeah, she did. So no, wait, no, she didn't. So she went to the Golden Slip. That's right. So she stayed as a bit of a sprinter, but I honestly do think that she's a horse that can get out over some trip, and it seems to me like the way that she obviously, like I said, has hit the line the last couple of starts. She is someone who can get out there. Fastnet Rock fillies, we have seen them get out over a trip before, so I think that could be the case with her. But she obviously has been terrific to date. She was second at Hotham last time out, second the start prior to Instant Celebrity. I think that's 2 of the best form lines that anything can have in this race. So she just looks really hard to beat based off of those runs. If she just continues that, has the fitness on her side, and handles the 2,000 metres, should be extremely hard to beat. So she goes on top. For me, ahead of number 7, Pensado, I do think's well over the odds here. I mean, this horse won the Oaks Trial 2 starts back, and then came out over the 2,000 metres last start. Was sort of just tracking from a decent way back and ran into the race. But I thought it was a good effort from her still, and I think that that was seeing the 2,000 metres for the first time. She comes back to Flemington, where she obviously won the Oaks Trial 2 starts back. And I think that she'll show a lot of improvement and bounce back into winning form here. She's definitely a good chance of the $15. So she goes for second. In for third, I've got number 3, Succeed Indeed, who I also think's been finishing off nice in its runs. It was 6th in that same race that I just mentioned, behind Chikafoto and Salto Angel over 2,000 metres at Caulfield. Again, coming onto the bigger track might just suit her nicely as well. She has run here twice before, including a 4th Pine Thermosphere and Star Rail, who she meets Star Rail here again. But I just think that she's tracking nicely, and I think that she might just make that further improvement off her run from last start, and will appreciate getting back on top of the ground. So she goes in for third. And then in for fourth, I've got number 6, Salto Angel, who, considering that this horse beaten 2 of the horses that I quite like in the race with Succeed Indeed and Pensado. I mean, Salto Angel beat them both home and finds herself at $13. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe it in a sense. Comes down a kilo from that run and ran really nicely on that occasion. So I do think it's got a good chance to go close again. Other chance in the race, look, Star Rail's obviously got some good ability. James McDonald takes the ride, so key jockey booking there. But my only thought with her, maybe I'm not sure if that. Obviously, she was quite good 2 starts back in that mile race that I mentioned behind Thermosphere, but I'm just not 100% convinced that maybe. I mean, I just didn't think her run last start was as good as some of the other ones, and that's my only little query with her. But I do see she has a chance, and Silhouette was strongly backed last time out, and it was a little bit disappointing, but. You got to respect that market support did come. The only thing with her is her best runs have come on wet tracks, so I've got to query her on top of the ground. But Victoria Key, I'm surprised this horse is so short. I mean, $5.50. I sort of marked it around that $10 mark. Obviously, the second Ain't No Deal done last start reads really well. And I do think that's some great form because Ain't No Deal Done, I think, is a horse, a real good stayer going forward. So Victoria Key, I do, in a sense, I see why it's been put at that position in the market, but I just think that some of these others might have slightly superior form lines, which for me, and they find themselves a bit at bigger odds, and they're perhaps that little bit of, sometimes people see a horse finish off a race nicely or something like that. They automatically think that they're going to win next start, or they're going to appreciate the step up in trip. It's not always a guarantee. I know that I said that earlier with one of my other selections, but with personal. But the thing is, I guess with Victoria Key is that before that, the form reads just fairly. I don't think there's anything too flashing in her 2 runs in Adelaide, but like I said, she runs a good race last time out. But you can never know with these 3-year-olds. Sometimes they can throw up a terrific performance and a poor one the next. So that's sort of why I looked around it. But very confident on personal in the first. I think it's going to be hard to beat. Ahead of number 7, Pensado, and for second, I thought it's well over the odds. In for third, number 2, Star Rel, and then for fourth, I've got number 6, Salto Angel. Moving on to race number 3 now, we've got the Tab Stakes over 1,200 metres up the straight for the first time of the day. I think that Coruscate, Kempel, Passer, and Banquo will be the likely leaders in this one here. I think that they'll be able to set the tempo, and Order Command and Blazowski probably might just settle so somewhere around just in behind them, that leading group there. Look, really interesting race this one because we've got so many different form lines to weigh up and tie in together. I know that Tactical Advantage won this race last year, and I was all over it at the big odds, and I was stoked it got up. But and look, could do it again. I just think that, I mean, obviously it comes back to Flemington, a track that he has won at, which he did last time out last year in this race. But I just think that maybe he just doesn't seem to be tracking as well. I suppose that last time I was looking for a little bit more from him in that Trumbull standout race, which was, of course, 2 weeks ago now. But I just thought that maybe he just wasn't quite strong enough there for me to make a big push for him. He's in my top 4 though. But anyway, getting into the order of my selections here, I'm keen to go with Banquo here, 4th up. I think this horse will be ready to strike. It's a terrific form races so far. Obviously the 7th last time out to Behemoth in the Group 1 Series, but Clark reads really well. It was a terrific run on that occasion, and look, he obviously steps back from Group 1 company, and that run was just over a month ago, so he's had a good freshen up since then. I think that he might just be able to pounce and strike in this race here. I like that he's been freshened and kept for this race here, so I think he's the one to beat for me, ahead of number 7, Rich Charm, who he looks over the odds to me because his very best form could go very close to this. I know he finished second last preparation on a rain-affected surface, so obviously he is quite good on a rain-affected surface, but he has won plenty of races on top of the ground as well. 17 starts for 6 wins on a firm track. So, look, his very best could go close. $27 looks over the odds to me, so he goes in for second. In for third, I do have number 2, Tactical Advantage, who also thinks over the odds coming to this 4th up. Has a pretty decent 4th up record as well, 5 starts for 2 wins and a placing. And I do think that coming back to Flemington might just suit him nicely. He might be able to just sit back in behind the speed and wind up, and like he did this time last year. So he goes in for third. And then in for 4th, I've got number 9, Octane, who, I mean, you can't really leave out. He's been ultra consistent this preparation, so very good push to say that he'll be finishing top 4 once again. Other chance in the race, look, I do think Bold Star could run well enough coming back to Flemington, and look, I mean, hasn't been too great the last couple of starts, but I thought that his effort in the Moya two starts back was quite decent behind Pippi and Trekking. Pretty good form race, that one, I think. And then the star pride is Atori and Banquo, who obviously he meets here again. I don't think he can get the better of Banquo just from what I've seen so far, but I'm sure that Bold Star could be running a nice race, and Order Command looks a bit over the odds as well, coming into this 3rd up. But look, I'm very keen to stick with my on top selection, and that is number 6, Banquo. Pretty keen on his chances tomorrow, ahead of number 7, Rich Charm. I just think well over the odds, considering that if he can show up and perform to even close to his best, he'll go very close. In for third, number 2, Tactical Advantage. Then for 4th, I've got number 9, Octane. Obviously, I didn't mention Coruscate. Obviously, he's had 2 wins so far as preparation, both at Caulfield. Both have been really good efforts. I'm just not too sure about the form line in comparison to some of these slightly weaker races, and he's got to carry 60 kilos. So a little bit of a query there for me, but you can't knock the winning form. Moving on to race number 4 on the program now. Moving on to race number 4 on the program now. Of course, this race, the Lexus Hotham Stakes, and obviously this race you win. Final chance to get into the Melbourne Cup on Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to that one. Just really quickly, I will point out, I probably should have done this at the start of the video, so my apologies. But for any of you still watching, I'll be putting out my Melbourne Cup video either Sunday or Monday. I won't be leaving it till Monday night. It'll be either Monday morning or late Sunday evening. So keep an eye out for that one. If you're very keen on having a go on the Cup Day, which I presume that most of you would be, as would most of the nation on that day. So anyway, back to Flemington, obviously, tomorrow. With the Hotham Stakes, obviously you win this race and you're in. So really interesting race going forward into the Melbourne Cup. So obviously I had to wait to see how this race goes. To be honest, unless something really blows something out of the water here, I can't really see any of these winning the Melbourne Cup personally. It's no knock on any of these horses. I just think that that there's the ones that are in the race already seem to have the stronger chances from what I've seen. But looking at this race in particular, still got to find a winner in this race. I'd suggest that Hush Rider will take up the running. Shabao and Britain Rock's probably the other ones that'll be probably just settle in behind the speed, I would say, from their barriers there. And I think Hush Rider should be able to dictate the terms. Look, I'm very keen to go with number 10, Shabao, here at the $4.20. I think it's a good bet and a good price. He obviously was heading towards the Cup, and he was, earlier in the year, he was touted to be one of the favourites for the Cup, and he was sort of considered to be a hard horse to beat, considering what he did last year. Just before the Melbourne Cup, before his injury, he was obviously he's a talent. He's been a little bit unlucky, I think, in his starts so far as preparation. But look, he's been running well enough, and I think that he could run a good race here again. He looks to get the perfect run once again in the race behind Hush Rider. I think he's going to get every opportunity. I've got to stick with him because for me, fourth up now, he's rock hard fit. He's got no excuses. This is probably the last time I'd be pushing towards him. If he fails on this occasion, I don't think I'll be going with him again. But I do think that he's the one to beat. At number 11, Admire Robson, who I really like how this horse is progressing. Third up here, obviously he's had two decent runs to start off this preparation, coming out of similar form lines to Shabao. But just might have that little bit of extra improvement in it that it might see it go closer, and has been pretty strongly backed as well. Open up at a quote of $6.50. It is now $4.50. Ash Run I thought was really good in the Geelong Cup. First up here in Australia behind Steel Prince, LaDonda V. I think that's a good enough form line to suggest it'll run well enough here. Karen McAvoy rides. So good jockey booking there. And second up, I think we'll see a very good performance from this horse here. Obviously has come to Australia to compete in these type of races. Obviously, they were hoping that he probably would have won the Geelong Cup and got himself into the Melbourne Cup, but this is his final chance, and I suggest that he'll be going very close to winning it as also. So that looks to be the three chances, and the market does suggest that. I do think that Sound can run well again. Obviously, last started Moonee Valley in the Move Out Gold Cup. That was literally just last week. He was a little bit touch disappointing. I was with him, and I thought he was quite plain, but he comes back to Flemington, track where obviously 2 starts back he finished second at Persan. He bet a lot of these horses home, so if he can return to that type of form, I'd suggest that he's a better chance than $8.50, so he can definitely bounce back off the 7-day backup. Other chances in the race, I do think Future Score, I really liked his horse's win in the Cranbourne Cup. He was pretty dominant there, and if he can improve off of that and run well here again third up, I think he'll be a chance. I do think some of these have got better ability than him, but I do think that that run suggests that he's in a bit of form and that he'll be running well enough. And obviously Hush Rider will be doing its own thing in the speed on speed, and should give them something to catch up in front, and should be leading for a fair way. Obviously, Brilliant Rocks ran pretty good last start at Randwick 2 weeks ago behind Fun Factor over the 2600, so should be able to see out the distance. But for me, look, I'm very keen. I think that the top 3 says the story in the market. I think they are the 3 to beat. And I've gone Shabao on top ahead of number 11, Admire Robson, in for second, in for third. Really worried about this one, number 1, Ash Run. Obviously, has come over here with some expectation, went round as the favourite in the Geelong Cup. I think it might have drifted and ended up being second favourite to Steel Prince potentially, but anyway, he opened up as the favourite in that race, so he was obviously pretty well thought of. And then number 5, Sound, goes in for fourth. Moving on to race number 5 in the program now, the first of the Group 1s of the day, the Tab Empire Rose Stakes over the 600 metres for the fillies and mares, and looking forward to this race. Looks a good contest, and I think Felicia and Shout the Bar will probably lead them up. Forbidden Love will probably look to roll forward, as will Chica Fueto. And I suggest that Odium will also be up towards the pace as well. Probably will just look sitting behind, probably a couple of pairs with a bit of cover. Should get that perfect run of the race, number 12 Odium. And Look, I think Mystic Journey, where she will land, I'm not 100% sure. I think that she might probably be sitting next to Odium, and we'll just hope to get be able to get her out the way. But look, I've got to go. I've got to go back into Mystic Journey again. I had a big knock on her up until her last start victory at Mooney Valley, and she just seems to. If she can take some confidence out of winning that race there into this, she should be hard to beat again. She obviously runs really well here at Flemington. She had 4 starts here at Flemington for 2 wins and a placing, including the All-Star Mile, which she won back in 2018. So she's well accustomed to running well here at Flemington, and she's excellent at this type distance range as well. I think that the mile suits her very nicely. I think she probably, it was just that 1400 might have just been a touch too short for her. Obviously, her last start victory was on a soft track, so a little bit of a concern coming back on top of the ground. But she's got enough wins under her bank to suggest you run well enough. She's a 50% winner on a firm track, which is good enough for me. And I think that if she's at her best, she should just be beating this field. So she goes on top for me ahead of number 11 Shay Low, who I think's a good horse at the each way odds of $13 and $3.90 the place here. I think really good third last time out behind Sovereign Award and Fabric. Sovereign Award's since come out and franked the form winning on Cox Plate Day last week. So the form is there and it's right, and I think that this horse is very progressive, and I think she can run a good race in coming to this third up with a bit of fitness under her side. So she goes in for second. In for third, I've got number third at 12 Odium, obviously the 1,000 guineas winner, and only carrying the 49 kilos. I'd be very surprised if she's not fighting out the finish, especially from her draw. She looks to get a perfect run the race, so she goes in for third. And then for fourth, I've got number 14, Forbidden Love, who I do think's over the odds. If Daniel could just find a slot from that outside barrier, maybe sit him around where, sort of maybe just in front of Odium behind the 2 leaders, should be right at the finish. I mean, she's been really good in her career to date. She's was really good winning last time out over the 1400 metres at Randwick. I'm not sure that you could look at that race and perhaps say that the field doesn't look that strong in comparison to what she's facing here. That's obviously a bit of a given, but you got to look at what she was facing prior to that. She was a third to Wild Ruler Destination. Wild Ruler goes around as a very good chance in the Coolmore Stud Stakes. She had a third to Danger Cell and Hungry Heart. We know what those 2 horses have done so far this spring, especially obviously in Sydney. And we've got Danger Cell going around later on the program as well. So Forbidden Love can't be forgotten about. She's $20, and I think it's well over the odds. If she can find that spot from the outside barrier, I could see her running a very good race. Other chances in this, I do think that obviously Shout the Bar's been a horse I've been trying to stick with, but my only thing with her now is that she's had her only wins have come on soft tracks, so it's just that little bit of a query for me. I continue to keep saying that, yep, she'll bounce back, she'll get back to that Group 1 winning form, but she just hasn't seemed to be able to do it just yet, so I've got a bit of a knock on her, but I do think that her best, I could see her go quite close. She'll be leading for a long way up the front. And look, other chances in the race, I do think Asiago's over the odds as well. I mean, this horse is a little bit out of form, but can often pop up and win a race here and there where she's not expected to. I really liked her first up performance at Wyong when she beat Wonderbar. I did, followed her after that performance and thought she would run a good race again. Felicia obviously is in great form as well, but look, I'm very confident with number 1 Mystic Journey, and even as well, look pretty brazen. Madame Rouge, it's an open race. I'll put it that way. There's plenty of chances, but I do think that Mystic Journey is the standout, and it's the one I'm going to have on top. Ahead of number 11 Shiloh, and for second, I just think it's very progressive and is a horse that could really show a career best performance in this type of race here. In for third, I've got number 12 Odium, and then in for fourth, number 14 Forbidden Love. Just think that those horses down the bottom of the weights might be able to run a pretty bold race, especially considering they'll be up towards the speed. Moving on to race number 6 now. It's the Group 1 Coolmore Stud Stakes, and I'm really looking forward to this race here. I think this is a terrific addition of the race. We've got some terrific fillies in the field, as well as some really good colts in it as well. Look at the speed here. I do suggest to be a fair bit. I think Anders and Farnham will probably pair off and lead it up, but Wild Ruler and Holyfield do like to roll forward as well, so they won't be far away. Swats that in September on will probably just behind them, and Glenn Fiddick as well. He obviously led all the way last time out at Mooney Valley. He'll probably be up there also now. Look, I've gone with a 2 bet play in this. You could go a lot of ways in this race because it's a very tough one. First one is going to be the win on Farnham. Obviously, he's a terrific horse, and obviously it's well profiled and labelled to what has happened with him over the last couple of months with injury problems and whatnot. He's had a couple of different issues. He obviously had that 5th in the run to the Rose. We was beaten as a favourite. He was sort of madly ridden up front. It's no disrespect to Hugh Bowman. He just made a bit of a mistake on that one there. Maybe the horse wasn't settling either, though. I think it was a little bit of both from my standpoint, my perspective. But he obviously has immense talent. We know that from his Golden Slipper win. I'm just not sure how he's come back to the 3-year-old. That's my only little query. He's trialling the house down. He trialled well again after that mishap in the run to the Rose, but. I like that how after that they target him for this, despite what happened with all the Everest. And I had a feeling that he would come out of the Everest, and I did think that if he come down to this race, he'd be hard to beat. So I've got to be sticking with that. So Glenn Boss on it, obviously the big race rider. He's an absolute superstar. He did it again in the Cox Plate. So got to think that I've got to stick with Farnan as the win bet, but then I've got something each way on number 7 Anders, who I do think can just bounce back to form here. I mean, people will look into his last start and they'll see that he was beaten as a $1.35 favourite, beaten by Ranting and Hanseatic in that race there. But 3-horse fields can really throw up some strange stuff. I mean, I almost don't really look at that race. I mean, you got to look before that, right? He beat Peltzer by 3.3 legs. Now, Peltzer since come out and won 3 in a row. I know that she had that run in between. He had that run in between where obviously he went to the run to the Rose, then the Golden Rose, and Anders has been given a fair bit of time between his runs. That run was back on the 29th of August, but regardless, he beat a good horse in Peltzer. There's no denying that. Obviously, Peltzer has won the what was it one last Saturday, obviously, in that $1 million race. Sorry, that's just completely flying over my head there. I should know it because I covered it, but then obviously Peltzer won the start prior as well. So my point is that the form's good there. But the one I really go back to was that win on the heavy track beating Ole Kirk. Now, I know it was on a heavy surface, but you still got to give a lot of merit to it beating a horse like Ole Kirk, and he just beat him. He smashed him on that occasion. So I just think that he could bounce back here potentially. We see this all the time with horses. They have one little blemish, punters forget about them and go, can't go into them again. You got Rolls $1.40 favourite, fair enough, but it's in a 3-horse field where anything can happen. And I think that bouncing back to this type of grade, I think that he'll actually run a much better race, and I expect to see him go very close to the $10. So he is my second selection. In for third, I do have number 2, Wild Ruler, who I think has come back terrific this preparation. And I personally thought he was very stiff not to get a spot in the Everest after winning the Roman Consul in such dominant fashion. There might have been a bit of query on what he beat there, but I do think that he did well enough to suggest that he deserved his chance in the Everest. Now, regardless, he comes in this race third up, rock hard fit, with 2 wins under his belt. He's going to be going very close with James McDowell in the saddle, so he goes for third. Then in for fourth, the other one I didn't mind as well is obviously number 14, September Run, who's been terrific at its last 2 starts here. I'm not 100% certain that the form is as good as the 3 that I've already mentioned, but you can't knock the winning form she's been in, and she's obviously, she's just such a progressive horse. Seems to be getting better with each start that she has now, and got to really respect that she'll run well again. Other chances of the race, do think Swats that will run a good race once again. She doesn't know how to run a bad one, so wouldn't surprise me if she's riding the finish again. Downland obviously come back to Flemington, where he won 2 starts back in the Danehill. So he's got a chance. Glenn Fiddick obviously was the Caulfield Guineas favourite, until he had the blemish and he couldn't get in for it. But he obviously, we know his ability. He finished third in a Group 1 behind Behemoth Mr. Quickie. That form's been franked out of that race there. And then he was terrific winning the Stud Stakes, beating Sherry Tortoni, who has since come out and franked that form as well. So the form all around him looks terrific. So I suggested he could run a good race as well at the $15 odds. But recap my numbers for me. I'm going to go with number 1, Farnan on top. Head of number 7, Anders. But like I said, I'm going to be having a play on both of them. In for third, I've got number 14, September Run. And then for fourth, I've got in for third, number 2, Wild Rule. Then in for fourth, number 14, September Run. Moving on to race number 7 on the program. So obviously this is the Victoria Derby, race number 7 over the 2,500 metres, and I'm really looking forward to this race. It always seems to be a good edition of it, and it's always a great race with a lot of intrigue, because there's a lot of horses that, obviously, that they've got plenty of progression ahead of them, and a lot of them are seeing this distance for the first time. So it's all about trying to dig deep to find the winner of this race. Often can be quite difficult. I find the Oaks is a little bit easier, but the Derby always seems to be a tough one to get. So hopefully we can find that here tomorrow. But look at the speed. It's hard to say, really. I think Let's Crack a Deal might be towards the pace. I don't know if he'll lead them up, though. I think Wasaka We'll probably look to try and lead them up from barrier number 2. I think that young Werther will also be looking to roll forward a little. Shetschweier won't be too far away, but there's not really any natural leaders in this race here, so I don't really see there being an extremely strong tempo, although historically in derbies there is usually a strong tempo, so there might be something that really bursts out the barriers and goes forward and so I guess shocks us a little bit. But from the way a lot of these horses race, there's not a lot of speed in the race. But look, I'm very keen to go number 6, Hit the Shot here. I'm extremely confident with this horse, and I've been confident on him coming into this derby for a little bit of time now, and I've been on him his last 2 starts, and it's been hair ripping stuff, honestly, because he's just been a good thing beating in both of them, and particularly that Derby trial, he was just bolting for a run. He couldn't get out at all for nearly the whole straight, and then when he did, he just burst the line strongly, and after the line, he went straight past all of them, so he was really impressive there. And obviously, last time out, he flew home from a long way back off a really slow tempo behind Alvarado and Les Crackdeal. He hit the line brilliantly there. I really do suggest that he'll lead up the 2,500 metres, being a son of Dundeel as well. He's obviously well bred to get this type of distance range, and spoke to Matt Kamani the other day, and he's pretty full of confidence, this horse. The plan is sort of just to ride him sort of whip wide with a bit of cover, and literally he just said try and keep him out of trouble, because that's exactly what he's find himself to do, particularly in that Derby trial. He just got in all sorts of trouble in that race there, so they don't want that. They're just going to keep him in the clear, and I do think that then he'll be too good if he can do that. So he goes on top for me. Ahead of number 5, Young Worth, who I do obviously respect highly, and this horse is really building into this race nicely. I mean, only 3rd start and going to a derby, it's a pretty bold choice, but we see it all the time in Europe, and I know Danny O'Brien's taken plenty of inspiration from the way the Europeans do it, and he's obviously done that with Russian Camelot in throwing him into some big races straight away early in his career. But I do think that Young Worth has got plenty of ability, and I like that he's been saved for this race here. I do think that's the right choice, so he's going to run a good race. I'm Worth Thema. Now, this horse, I can't really believe it. $35. I mean, I can believe it, because obviously he hasn't been too impressive his last start, obviously in the Spring Champion up at Randwick. But I'm going to forgive that, because he was a long way back, and he was never really travelling into the race there, and he wobbled on the turn. It was just a horror show, really, for anyone who backed him, including myself. But prior to that, he was awesome in the Derby trial here at this track. He was a good thing beaten that day as well. I thought it was going to be between him and Hit the Shot. He was last on the fence. He managed to navigate his way to the outside at around the 200 to the 150. It was, and then he just powered through the line. It was really impressive stuff. If he can replicate that performance, I really do think that he can go very close to winning this race here. And I know that, speaking to Natalie Young a couple of weeks ago, that she did say that she didn't really have a whole lot between these two horses, and to me, she seemed like she was more keen on Worth Thema coming into the race. Now, that might have changed over the last couple of weeks, but at the time, that's what that was sort of what the general consensus seemed to be with his horse. So I'm really keen to stick with it and to have it into my numbers, and I'm going to be having each way bet on it. The other one I do like is number 1, Cherry Tortoni. Obviously, really good winning at Moonee Valley last time out, beating Kukakoe. My only little query with him, obviously that win was last week. He comes in this off the 7-day backup, and his only wins have been on a soft track, so he comes back on a firm surface. So a little bit of a query there. I do think he's a bit short at $4.20. I would have marked him more around that $7 mark personally, but I do see that he obviously is a good horse. The other chance in the race, I do think that Alvarado and Let's Crack a Deal have their opportunities. Redwood Shadow, I've been loving how this horse been finishing off its races. He looks to have some ability and some upside. I think he can run a good race also. And I've seen a bit around about Johnny Get Angry as well, so really interesting race. But look, I'm very keen on number 6, Hit the Shot, on top selection, and quite comfortably for me. I think that he's the one to beat in this race. Ahead of number 5, Young Wortham for second. In for third, I've got number 9, Worth Thema, who I do think is a great each way bet if you want to have something to long odds. And then in for fourth, number 1, Cherry Tortoni. Now moving on to race number 8, the Group 1 Cantala. I'm going to get through this race, then get through race number 9 as quickly as possible, because I don't want this video to chop out and end, and I have to put it all together. It's a real big pain in the backside, so I don't want that to happen. But looking at race number 9, race number 8, the Cantala Group 1. I think the Buffalo River and Streets of Avalon will be the 2 leaders here, although Age of Shiver and Old Meadow will probably look to cross from outside barriers. I think the Velvet King won't be too far away. Along the Chief Ironside, they won't be very far away either. And Wild Planet probably be just in behind the pace as well. Really good. I love this Cantala race here. I think this is a very good addition of the race. And Tell you what, I'm very keen to have something at 40 to 1 here about the Velvet King. I think this horse got a terrific chance. I know that Peter Moody was very keen on this horse coming here to Australia. Coming here to Victoria from WA. He showed that in WA he had a lot of ability. He's third to the likes of sort of Material Man, Perfect Jewel. He had a second of Perfect Jewel as well. And we've seen what Perfect Jewel's come over here and done. So I think that's, looks to be some nice form. He looks to be a real progressive type of horse. He went over the 1200 first up, and that was way too sharp for him. He's going to get out to the mile here, and I think he'll run a much better race. And I think he's well in this. And I think at $41, he's a bit over the odds, and I'll be having something each way on it pretty strongly, and I think that he can win. So he goes on top for me, ahead of number 15, Nonconformist. They're also think is a very good price, and I'm keen to see how this horse goes coming back to the mile. Obviously, he obviously won nicely over the 2,000 metres, beating Harlem last time out. Step back to the miles, a little bit of a query, but he does run well at this distance range, so I'm not too concerned by that. And the 53 kilos looks to really suit him nicely, so he goes in for third. In for fourth, I do have number two, Mr. Quickie, who he bounced back to form in brilliant style last time out on Caulfield Guineas Day. Obviously, was very keen on that in the Toorak handicap, and he got up at the 21 to 1, so hopefully some of you followed me in with that one. But look, I just think that with this race here, he's got every opportunity to do it again. Barrier 16, not really that much of an issue when he drops back in the field, but I'm just not sure if, it's always one of those things when they drop into the shorter price, it's just that little bit harder to take. I was very happy to take him at 21 to 1 last time out, just not as happy to take 550 about him. And I think there's a few in this race that have almost as good a chance as he does. So he's got my third pick. And then in fourth, number 16, King's Legacy, the 3-year-old. He obviously comes in this one. I think he was very unlucky in the Caulfield Guineas. I was quite keen on him. I'm going to stick with him again because he didn't really have a whole lot of luck. And I just think coming to Flemington, a bigger track, he just might be able to run a better race on this occasion. So I'm going to stick with him with Glenn Boss in the saddle as well. Obviously a big race rider. Other chance in the race, look, number 13, Buffalo River, obviously has been going pretty close in his 2 starts, 2 seconds now. And obviously the last start second, and Mr. Quickie reads pretty well, and I think he can run a good race again. Wild Planet was really good winning last start, obviously 2 weeks ago on Caulfield Cup Day. I really liked that performance, was on it myself. So that was a good performance. And 50 Stars, the other one, coming to this third up, I could see a good performance coming in from it, stepping up to the mile. But recapping the numbers for me, look, I'm very keen to go with number 11, Velvet King. I think that he's going to be hard to beat, especially at the big price as well. On top of number 15, Nonconformist, in for second. In for third, I've got number 2, Mr. Quickie. Then in for fourth, I've got number 16, King's Legacy. This is a race will be going really wide in. Moving on to the final race of the program, is going to try and get through as quick as possible because I can see I'm coming up to the limit of my video. Look, the speed here, I do think that we'll be able to see the speed from within. Sistar, How Romantic, Diamond Effort will probably show a bit of pace as well as California Zimbo. I think they'll be the main speed factors in the race. I'm going to stick with Fachuse here. I'm going to think it can get the better of California Zimbo this time around. A bit of a switch in the weight, so I think California Zimbo comes down. No, they both come down 2 kilos. My apologies, but look, I think the Fachuse coming back sort of on top of the ground will suit it much better than it does on the soft. So I think that we'll see her bounce back and get the better of California Zimbo this time around, who I have got in for second. In the third, number 5, How Romantic. Can't really understand this horse at $25. I mean, comes back on top of the ground. She has a perfect 5-5 record on top of the ground. So 21 to 1 could really suggest an each way play at her. She's obviously up in grade a little bit, but I don't think this is too difficult of a task for her. And then number 1, Exhilarates, goes in for fourth, who I think can run a good race second up here with her terrific good second up form, and also stepping out to the 1100 metres, coming back from 1200 last time out. Other chance of the race, Bless Her, obviously resuming, has a chance, and probably way up in the sky. I still think this horse, third up, could show a nice sort of turn of foot in this type of race. She obviously runs really well here at Flemington, so I wouldn't be surprised if she runs well. I've left Diamond Effort, the favourite, out of the top 4. The only reason I've done that is just for a bit of a value way, but I do think that this horse can run well enough. I just thought there was a few others that worth mentioning at decent odds for me personally. Now moving on to the best bets of the program. So look, a bit of a toss-up here. I mean, I was very keen to go with Hit the Shot as my best bet of the program, but I have left it in for the best value because there was 2 others I really want to make good mentions of that I couldn't put under best value because they're a little bit too short for that. But race number 3, number 6, Banquo, is my best bet of the program at the 550. I think it's going to be extremely hard to beat in race number 3. And then in race number 2, the Wakeful number 1 personal at the $3 a mile, the best bet of the program. Best value bets, obviously, in the Derby is number 6, Hit the Shot. But then also with a good each way play on number 9, Hotham, I think can go really close also. And the other one that I did like at a good price was in race number 6 and number 7, Anders in the Coolmore Stud Stakes, the $10. And obviously a bit of a mention on number 11, Velvet King, but I haven't put that into my top selections, therefore say. But that's my Derby preview for tomorrow. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I mentioned, go check me out on the social medias, and obviously check out my Quaddie Selections. I'll put that down in the description below. So thank you for tuning in, and really appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully you find plenty of winners tomorrow. Enjoy the terrific day of racing.